Synopsis of The Touch of the Sky. In a world where aspirations often feel tethered to the ground, The Touch of the Sky invites readers on an introspective journey that explores the profound connection between humanity and the infinite possibilities represented by the sky. Set against a backdrop of both childhood wonder and adult ambition, this narrative follows the protagonist as they navigate life's challenges while seeking moments of inspiration that elevate their spirit. From a young age, our protagonist is captivated by dreams of flight, an embodiment of their desire to transcend limitations and explore uncharted territories within themselves. As they transition into adulthood, these dreams evolve into tangible goals and aspirations, yet they are met with obstacles that threaten to ground them. The central conflict arises from their struggle to reconcile everyday realities with their yearning for something greater, a quest for meaning in a world filled with uncertainty. Throughout the story, we witness the protagonist's summary 3 Chapter 1. Dreaming of Flight 1.1 Childhood Wonder Ignites 31.2 First Flight Dreams 51.3 Boundaries of Imagination 68 Chapter 2. Grounded Realities 2.1 Adult Responsibilities Loom 82.2 Dreams Confront Reality 102.3 Seeking Balance 11:13 Chapter 3. The Call to Adventure 3.1 Unexpected Opportunity Arises 133.2 Decision at the Crossroads 153.3 Embracing the Unknown 16:18 Chapter 4. Trials and Tribulations 4.1 Overcoming First Obstacles 184.2 Lessons from Failures 204.3 Resilience in Adversity 22:24 Chapter 5. Allies and Mentors 5.1 Meeting the Guide 245.2 Forming Crucial Alliances 265.3 Wisdom Shared 27:29 Chapter 6. Inner Reflections 6.1 Solitude Brings Insight 296.2 Confronting Inner Fears 316.3 Clarity Achieved 32.1 Dreaming of Flight 1.1 Childhood Wonder Ignites the sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden hue over the playground where laughter echoed like music. Young hearts raced as they chased each other, their imaginations soaring higher than the swings that creaked under their weight. Among them was Mia, her eyes wide with wonder as she gazed up at the clouds drifting lazily by. "Look, that one looks like a dragon," she exclaimed, pointing excitedly to a fluffy formation above. Her friend Jake squinted against the sunlight. "No way, it's a spaceship. I bet it's taking aliens to another planet." Mia giggled, her mind racing with possibilities. "What if we could fly, just like birds or superheroes?" Jake grinned, his imagination ignited. "We could explore the whole world. We'd be unstoppable." Their conversation sparked an idea in Mia's mind, a plan for an adventure that would take them beyond their small town and into realms of fantasy. She turned to Jake with determination shining in her eyes. "Let's build wings. We can use cardboard and old sheets from my mom's sewing box," she proposed eagerly. "Wings? That's brilliant," Jake replied, his excitement palpable. "We'll be flying high before you know it." As they gathered materials, Mia felt a rush of inspiration coursing through her veins. The mundane world around them faded away. All that mattered was their dream of flight and freedom. Cardboard boxes transformed into wing frames. Sheets became colorful feathers fluttering in the wind. Imagination turned their backyard into an expansive sky filled with endless adventures. With every piece they added to their makeshift wings, Mia felt closer to something profound. An understanding that childhood wonder was not just about play but about reaching for dreams that seemed out of reach. In those moments of creation and laughter, she realized that the sky wasn't merely above them. It was also within them, a boundless expanse waiting to be touched. 1.2 First Flight Dreams. The sun had risen higher, illuminating the backyard where Mia and Jake were hard at work on their wings. The cardboard frames stood proudly, adorned with colorful sheets that fluttered in the gentle breeze. As they stepped back to admire their creation, a sense of anticipation filled the air. "Do you think we can really fly?" Mia asked, her voice tinged with both excitement and doubt. Jake nodded vigorously. "Of course. We just need to believe it enough." He took a deep breath, his eyes sparkling with determination. "Let's test them out. We can jump off the swing set." Mia's heart raced at the thought. "But what if we fall?" she replied hesitantly. "Falling is part of flying," Jake said confidently. placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. We'll be like birds. Just imagine soaring over the trees. With a shared glance that spoke volumes, they climbed onto the swing set, their makeshift wings strapped tightly around them. The world below seemed to fade away as they prepared for their leap into the unknown. Mia felt the wind whip through her hair as she closed her eyes and envisioned herself gliding effortlessly. Jake counted down dramatically. 3, 2, 1, jump! They leaped together, hearts pounding in unison. For a brief moment, time stood still. They were suspended in mid-air, laughter mingling with exhilaration. But gravity soon reminded them of its presence as they landed softly on the grass below. That was amazing! Mia exclaimed breathlessly, rolling onto her back to gaze up at the sky once more. We flew. Well, sort of, Jake chuckled, brushing off blades of grass from his shirt. Next time we'll add some real feathers for extra magic. Mia smiled brightly. Each attempt brought them closer to their dream of flight. In those moments filled with laughter and imagination, she understood that every dream begins with a leap of faith, no matter how small or seemingly impossible it may seem. 1.3 Boundaries of imagination. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the backyard where Mia and Jake sat, their wings resting beside them. The thrill of their recent leap still buzzed in the air, but now a new question loomed over them like a cloud. What if we could really fly? Mia mused, her eyes sparkling with wonder. I mean, what if we could go anywhere? To the mountains or even to the ocean? Jake's face lit up at her words. We could explore hidden places. Imagine soaring above the clouds. He leaned back on his elbows, lost in thought. But what if there are limits? What if we can only dream about it? Mia frowned slightly, contemplating his words. Limits are just boundaries we set for ourselves, she replied thoughtfully. If we believe hard enough, maybe those boundaries can stretch. She picked up a stick and drew imaginary lines in the dirt around them. Like this line, she said, tracing a circle around their wings. It's our comfort zone. Jake nodded slowly. And outside that circle is everything we've never tried before. Exactly. We have to push past it, Mia exclaimed, her voice rising with excitement. As they spoke, their imaginations took flight once more. They envisioned themselves gliding over vast landscapes, fields of flowers swaying beneath them and rivers winding like ribbons through valleys. What if we built something bigger next time? Jake suggested eagerly. A real flying machine, with engines and everything. Mia giggled at the thought but then grew serious again. But what if it doesn't work? What if we fail? Then we'll learn from it, Jake replied confidently, determination shining in his eyes. Every great invention started as a dream that seemed impossible. He paused for a moment before adding softly, and sometimes dreams need a little push. With renewed resolve, they looked at each other and smiled. Together they would challenge the boundaries of their imagination and see just how far they could soar. 2 Grounded realities. 2.1 Adult responsibilities loom. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting long shadows across the living room where Sarah sat, her laptop open but untouched. The weight of adult responsibilities loomed over her like a storm cloud, dark and heavy. I can't believe I have to deal with this now, she muttered under her breath. Her friend Mark leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. You know you can't keep avoiding it forever, right? He said, his tone both teasing and serious. I know, Sarah sighed, running a hand through her hair. But every time I think about my job application or paying bills, it feels like I'm drowning. Mark stepped into the room and plopped down on the couch beside her. What if we tackle it together? You could use some support. Support? She raised an eyebrow. You mean you'll help me write my resume? Exactly. And I'll even bring snacks. He grinned, trying to lighten the mood. Sarah chuckled despite herself. Okay, fine. But only if you promise not to let me procrastinate. Job applications. The daunting task that felt insurmountable. Bills. A constant reminder of financial obligations. Future plans. The pressure to have everything figured out. Their laughter faded as they settled into a more serious conversation about their futures. Sometimes I feel like everyone else has it all together while I'm just here, Sarah confessed quietly. Mark nodded thoughtfully. It's easy to feel that way when social media shows everyone's highlight reel. But remember, we're all figuring things out one step at a time. A flicker of hope ignited within Sarah as she considered his words. Perhaps facing these responsibilities didn't have to be so isolating after all. Maybe sharing the burden could lighten the load. 2.2 Dreams confront reality the following day. Sarah found herself sitting at a small cafe, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingling with the chatter of patrons. She stared out the window, lost in thought as she watched people rush by, each seemingly on their own path. "What am I doing?" she whispered to herself, feeling the weight of her unfulfilled dreams pressing down. Mark slid into the seat across from her, a steaming cup in hand. "You look like you're about to solve world hunger," he joked, trying to lighten her mood. "More like contemplating my life choices," Sarah replied with a half-hearted smile. "I had this dream of becoming a graphic designer, but now it feels so far away. Why not start small? You could take an online course or even work on some freelance projects," Mark suggested, leaning forward earnestly. "But what if I fail?" Sarah's voice trembled slightly as she spoke. "What if I put myself out there and it doesn't work out?" Fear of failure, a paralyzing force that stifles ambition. Small steps, the importance of incremental progress toward goals. Support systems, friends who encourage and uplift during tough times. Mark nodded thoughtfully. Everyone starts somewhere. Remember when we were kids? We didn't care about failing. We just wanted to create. A flicker of nostalgia crossed Sarah's face as she recalled their childhood art projects scattered across her bedroom floor. "Yeah, we made some pretty terrible stuff," she laughed softly. "Exactly. And look where that got us. Here we are today," Mark said with enthusiasm. "You have talent. Don't let fear steal your dreams." His words hung in the air between them, heavy yet hopeful. The conversation shifted something within Sarah. Perhaps confronting reality didn't mean abandoning her dreams, but rather reshaping them into achievable goals. With renewed determination brewing inside her, she took a deep breath and smiled at Mark. "Okay, let's do this." 2.3 Seeking balance. As the days passed, Sarah found herself caught in a whirlwind of emotions. The excitement of pursuing her dreams clashed with the reality of her daily responsibilities. One afternoon, she met Mark again at their favorite cafe, hoping to find some clarity. "You seem different today," Mark observed as he stirred his coffee. "What's on your mind?" "I'm trying to figure out how to balance everything," Sarah admitted, her brow furrowed in thought. "Between work, my personal life, and now this new goal of becoming a graphic designer, it feels overwhelming." Mark leaned back in his chair, considering her words. "It's all about prioritizing what matters most to you," he replied thoughtfully. "Have you thought about setting specific times for your design work?" Time management, allocating dedicated hours for creative pursuits, self-care, recognizing the importance of rest and relaxation. Flexibility, adapting plans when life throws curveballs. "I guess I could try that," Sarah said slowly. "But what if I end up neglecting other important things?" "Balance doesn't mean doing everything perfectly," Mark reassured her. "It's about finding a rhythm that works for you." He paused before adding, "And don't forget to take breaks. You can't pour from an empty cup." A smile crept onto Sarah's face as she considered his advice. "You always know how to put things into perspective," she said appreciatively. "That's what friends are for," Mark replied with a grin. "Just remember, it's okay to adjust your goals as you go along." His words resonated with Sarah. Perhaps seeking balance was not just about managing time, but also about being kind to herself during the journey. With newfound resolve, Sarah took a deep breath and nodded. "Okay, I'll give it a shot. One step at a time." 3. The call to adventure. 3.1 Unexpected opportunity arises. It was a typical Tuesday morning when the unexpected opportunity knocked on Clara's door, quite literally. As she sipped her coffee, lost in thoughts of mundane tasks, a sharp knock interrupted her reverie. She opened the door to find an old friend, Mark, standing there with an infectious grin. "Clara, you won't believe what just happened," he exclaimed, his eyes sparkling with excitement. "What is it?" "You look like you've seen a ghost," Clara replied, curiosity piqued. "I just got off the phone with a producer from that documentary series we used to dream about. They're looking for someone to help them explore local artists and their stories," Mark said breathlessly. Clara's heart raced. "You mean they want us?" "Exactly. They need fresh perspectives and thought of us because of our past projects together." He leaned closer, lowering his voice as if sharing a secret. "This could be our chance to touch the sky." She hesitated for a moment. "But I have my job at the gallery. What if it doesn't work out?" Mark shook his head vigorously. "This is exactly what we've been waiting for. Remember all those late-night talks about making art accessible? This is our shot." Clara felt a flicker of hope igniting within her. "You really think we can do this?" "Of course. We've always had each other's backs," he reassured her. "Let's meet with them and see where it leads." His enthusiasm was contagious. As they discussed potential ideas over coffee, Clara began envisioning vibrant scenes filled with local artists sharing their journeys. Stories that could inspire others just as they had inspired her. This unexpected opportunity felt like a gentle nudge from the universe. A reminder that sometimes life offers paths we never anticipated but are meant to follow. The thrill of creativity rekindled within her. A sense of purpose blossomed as possibilities unfolded. The fear of failure began to fade into excitement for new adventures. 3.2 Decision at the crossroads as Clara sat across from Mark in their favorite cafe. The weight of the decision loomed over her like a storm cloud. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the air, but it did little to ease her anxiety. "What if I leave my job and this doesn't pan out?" she asked, stirring her drink absent-mindedly. Mark leaned forward, his expression earnest. "Clara, think about all those times we talked about making a difference through art. This is our moment. You can't let fear hold you back." His passion was palpable, igniting a flicker of courage within her. "But what if I fail? What will everyone think?" Clara's voice trembled slightly as she voiced her fears. "Failure is part of the journey," he replied firmly. "Remember when we tried to organize that community art show? It didn't go as planned, but we learned so much. This could be even bigger." He paused for effect, letting his words sink in. Clara glanced around the cafe, observing other patrons lost in their own worlds. She thought about her gallery job, safe yet unfulfilling, and how it had begun to feel like a cage rather than a sanctuary for creativity. The thrill of possibility danced in her mind. A vision of vibrant stories waiting to be told sparked excitement. The fear of judgment began to fade into determination. "You really believe we can do this together?" she asked softly, searching for reassurance. "Absolutely," Mark exclaimed with enthusiasm. "We've always been better together. Let's take this leap and see where it leads us." His eyes shone with conviction, and Clara felt herself drawn into his optimism. In that moment, Clara realized she stood at a crossroads. One path led back to safety and routine. The other opened up to adventure and potential fulfillment. With each heartbeat echoing in her ears, she knew that sometimes life's greatest rewards lay just beyond the edge of fear. 3.3 Embracing the unknown. As Clara stepped out of the cafe, a rush of cool air enveloped her, invigorating yet daunting. The decision to leave her job was no longer just a thought. It was a reality she had to face. "What if we really do this?" she murmured to herself, glancing at Mark who walked beside her, his enthusiasm palpable. "We will," he replied confidently, sensing her hesitation. "Think about all the possibilities. We can create something that resonates with people." His words hung in the air like an unspoken promise. Clara took a deep breath, feeling both excitement and trepidation swirl within her. "But what if I'm not good enough? What if nobody cares about our art?" She looked down at her shoes, suddenly aware of how small they felt against the vastness of their ambition. "You have to let go of those doubts," Mark encouraged, stopping to face her. "Remember when we painted that mural in the park? People stopped and stared. They were moved by what we created together. He gestured animatedly as he spoke, his passion igniting a spark in Clara's heart. The thrill of new experiences beckoned her forward. A world filled with potential awaited beyond her comfort zone. Each step into uncertainty felt like shedding old skin. I guess I've always played it safe, Clara admitted softly. But maybe it's time for something different. She looked up at Mark, searching for affirmation. Exactly, he exclaimed. Embracing the unknown is where growth happens. We'll learn as we go. Together. His eyes shone with determination, and Clara felt a wave of reassurance wash over her. With each passing moment, Clara began to understand that embracing uncertainty could lead to unexpected joys and discoveries. As they continued walking down the bustling street, she realized that sometimes stepping into the unknown was not just about facing fear, but also about welcoming new adventures that could change everything. For Trials and Tribulations 4.1, overcoming first obstacles, the sun had barely risen, casting a soft glow over the small town as Mia stood at the edge of her driveway, her heart racing. Today was the day she would face her first major obstacle. Presenting her project to the school board, she could feel the weight of expectations pressing down on her shoulders. You've got this, Mia, her best friend Jake said, leaning against his bike with an encouraging smile. Just remember what we practiced. Mia nodded but felt a knot tighten in her stomach. What if they don't like it? What if I mess up? Jake shrugged, his confidence unwavering. Everyone stumbles at first. It's how you get back up that counts. He pushed off from the curb and pedaled alongside her as they walked toward the school. As they approached the building, Mia spotted other students gathered outside, their laughter echoing through the air. She took a deep breath and tried to calm herself. I just wish I could be as fearless as them, she admitted. Fearless? They're probably just as nervous, Jake replied thoughtfully. You know what? Why don't you think of it this way? Every great achievement starts with overcoming fear. His words hung in the air like a promise. Focus on your passion for the project. Visualize success instead of failure. Remember that feedback is a chance to grow. Just imagine you're talking to me, Jake encouraged as he gave her a gentle push forward. With each step toward the podium, Mia felt more grounded in purpose than ever before. Mia smiled slightly, feeling a flicker of hope ignite within her. As they entered the auditorium filled with parents and teachers, she whispered to herself, "This is my moment." The stage loomed ahead like an open sky waiting for flight. Thank you for being here, she began, finding strength in Jake's unwavering support behind her. In that moment, she realized that overcoming obstacles wasn't about erasing fear. It was about embracing it and moving forward anyway. For point 2 lessons from failures, the auditorium was still buzzing with the aftermath of Mia's presentation. But her heart sank as she replayed the moments in her mind. Despite her best efforts, she had stumbled over a few key points and felt the weight of disappointment settle in. As she stepped off the stage, Jake approached her with a concerned look. Hey, you did great. I mean it, he said, trying to lift her spirits. Mia shook her head, frustration evident on her face. But I forgot so much. What if they think I'm not cut out for this? Jake placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Everyone has off days. Remember when I bombed that math test? I thought it was the end of the world. He chuckled softly at the memory. Yeah, but you bounced back, Mia replied, crossing her arms defensively. Exactly. And what did I learn from it? That failure is just part of the process, he explained. You can't let one setback define you. He paused for a moment before adding, think about what you can take away from today. Embrace your mistakes. They are opportunities for growth. Seek feedback. Constructive criticism helps refine your skills. Stay resilient. Every failure is a stepping stone to success. Mia considered his words carefully. So you're saying that instead of wallowing in self-pity, I should analyze what went wrong? Exactly. Jake grinned. And remember how far you've come already. You were brave enough to present in front of everyone. A flicker of determination ignited within Mia as she nodded slowly. You're right. I need to focus on improving rather than dwelling on my mistakes. She took a deep breath and smiled at Jake, feeling lighter than before. Let's make a plan together, he suggested enthusiastically. We can practice more and tackle those weak spots head-on. Mia felt grateful for his unwavering support and realized that failures weren't just setbacks. They were lessons waiting to be learned. For point 3, resilience in adversity, the days following Mia's presentation were a whirlwind of emotions. Each morning, she would wake up with a knot in her stomach, replaying the moments of her failure. Yet, as she walked through the campus one afternoon, she spotted Sarah sitting on a bench, sketching in her notebook. "Hey Mia, come sit," Sarah called out, her eyes lighting up at the sight of her friend. Mia hesitated but eventually joined her. "I've been feeling pretty low since the presentation," she admitted, staring at the ground. Sarah looked thoughtful for a moment before responding. "You know, resilience is like muscle memory. The more you practice bouncing back from setbacks, the stronger you become." She paused to add some details to her drawing. "But what if I just keep failing?" Mia asked, frustration creeping into her voice. "Then you learn from it," Sarah replied confidently. "Remember when I tried out for that art competition? I didn't make it past the first round." She chuckled softly. "At first, I was devastated, but then I realized it was an opportunity to refine my skills and try again. Recognize your feelings. It's okay to feel disappointed. Acknowledge it. Learn from experiences. Every setback teaches valuable lessons. Surround yourself with support. Friends can help lift your spirits and provide perspective." Mia nodded slowly as Sarah spoke. "So you're saying that instead of hiding away after a failure, I should lean into it?" "Exactly," Sarah smiled warmly. "Resilience isn't about never falling. It's about how quickly you get back up and keep moving forward." She glanced at Mia's expression and added gently, "And remember that every artist has their off days too." A sense of hope began to replace Mia's self-doubt as she absorbed Sarah's words. Perhaps resilience wasn't just about enduring hardship, but also about embracing growth through adversity. 5 allies and mentors. 5.1 Meeting the guide. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting a warm glow over the park where I often sought solace. It was here that I first encountered my guide, an unexpected presence who would illuminate my path. As I sat on a weathered bench, lost in thought, an elderly man approached with a gentle smile. "Mind if I join you?" he asked, his voice like soft music against the backdrop of rustling leaves. I nodded, intrigued by his calm demeanor. "Of course," I replied. "I could use some company." The man settled beside me, his eyes twinkling with wisdom. "You seem troubled," he observed, tilting his head slightly. "What weighs on your heart?" Surprised by his insight, I hesitated before sharing my struggles. The feeling of being adrift and yearning for purpose. "I just feel lost," I admitted quietly. He chuckled softly, as if he had heard this confession many times before. "Ah, but sometimes being lost is merely a prelude to discovery," he said thoughtfully. "Have you ever looked up at the sky and wondered what it holds for you?" I glanced upward at the vast expanse above us, clouds drifting lazily across the blue canvas. "I suppose I've always felt drawn to it," I confessed. "Then let that longing guide you," he encouraged gently. "The sky is not just above. It reflects our innermost desires." He paused for a moment before continuing. "Tell me about your dreams. I want to inspire others. I dream of traveling and experiencing new cultures. Most importantly, I wish to find peace within myself." The old man listened intently as I spoke, nodding in understanding. "Each dream is a thread connecting you to your true self," he said finally. "Embrace them. They are your compass." His words resonated deeply within me. As we parted ways that day, I felt lighter somehow, like a weight had been lifted from my shoulders. Meeting him was not just chance. It was destiny guiding me toward clarity and purpose. 5.2 Forming crucial alliances. As I ventured deeper into my quest for purpose, I realized that the journey was not meant to be traveled alone. The old man's words echoed in my mind, urging me to seek out those who could walk alongside me. It was time to form crucial alliances. One afternoon, while attending a local art fair, I met Clara, a vibrant artist with an infectious passion for creativity. "Your eyes light up when you talk about your dreams," she remarked as we admired a mural together. "I want to inspire others through my writing," I replied, feeling an instant connection with her enthusiasm. "Then let's collaborate," Clara suggested excitedly. "Art and words can create magic together." Her proposal sparked a fire within me. Perhaps this was the partnership I needed. Over the next few weeks, we met regularly, sharing ideas and visions. One day, as we sat surrounded by paint splatters and sketches, Clara said, "You know, every great movement starts with a small group of passionate people. We should host workshops," I proposed eagerly, "and create a community project that brings people together." Clara added, "Let's use our talents to uplift others," I concluded. Our plans began to take shape as we reached out to other artists and writers in the area. During one meeting at a cozy cafe, we encountered Leo, a musician whose soulful melodies resonated deeply with our vision. "Count me in," he said after hearing our ideas. "Music can amplify your message." The three of us formed an alliance rooted in shared dreams and aspirations. As we collaborated on projects that combined our talents, art installations paired with poetry readings and live music performances, we discovered new perspectives on creativity and community. With each event we organized, our bond strengthened. We became not just allies but friends who supported one another through challenges and celebrated successes together. In this newfound camaraderie, I found clarity. These alliances were essential threads weaving my path toward purpose. 5.3 Wisdom shared as our alliance flourished. The importance of wisdom became increasingly evident. One evening, we gathered at Clara's studio, the walls adorned with her vibrant creations. The air was thick with paint fumes and anticipation as we prepared for a brainstorming session. "What if we invited local elders to share their stories?" I suggested, envisioning a bridge between generations. Clara's eyes sparkled with excitement. "Yes, their experiences could inspire our community projects." Leo leaned back in his chair, strumming his guitar absent-mindedly. "I've always believed that music is a vessel for stories. We could weave their tales into our performances." His voice carried a warmth that made the idea feel tangible. "Let's create an event where they can speak," I proposed eagerly. "And we can incorporate art displays that reflect their journeys," Clara added thoughtfully. "Music can echo their emotions," Leo concluded, nodding in agreement. The plan took shape quickly. We decided to host a storytelling night at the local community center. As the date approached, I reached out to several elders in the neighborhood, inviting them to share their wisdom and experiences. On the night of the event, the room buzzed with energy. Elders sat on stage, their faces illuminated by soft lights as they recounted tales of resilience and hope. Each story resonated deeply within us. It was as if time had folded upon itself. After one particularly moving story about overcoming adversity, Clara turned to me and whispered, "This is what it's all about, connecting through shared experiences." Leo nodded vigorously. "Their wisdom enriches our art. It gives depth to everything we create." The evening culminated in a collaborative performance where each elder's story inspired songs and visual art pieces created live on stage. In that moment, surrounded by laughter and tears alike, I understood. True purpose is often found in the wisdom shared among allies and mentors who guide us along our journey. 6 Inner Reflections. 6.1 Solitude brings insight in the quiet of her small cabin. Nestled among towering pines, Clara often found herself lost in thought. The world outside buzzed with life, but within those wooden walls, solitude wrapped around her like a warm blanket. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, she sat by the window, gazing at the sky painted in hues of orange and purple. "You know," her friend Mark said during one of his visits, breaking the silence that enveloped them, "sometimes I think we fear solitude because it forces us to confront ourselves." He leaned back in his chair, eyes fixed on the flickering candlelight. Clara nodded slowly. "It's true. In solitude, There's nowhere to hide from our thoughts. She paused, reflecting on how many times she had avoided facing her own fears and dreams. Embracing silence. Clara realized that silence was not empty. It was filled with potential insights waiting to be discovered. Finding clarity. Each moment spent alone allowed her to sift through her emotions and desires more clearly than any conversation could. Courage to reflect. Solitude gave her the courage to ask difficult questions about her life and choices. What do you think we find in those moments? Mark asked curiously. I believe we uncover truths, Clara replied thoughtfully. When distractions fade away, we can hear our inner voice, the one that knows what we truly want. She smiled softly as memories flooded back. Nights spent journaling under starlit skies or mornings meditating with only the sound of rustling leaves for company. So maybe solitude isn't something to fear after all, Mark mused. Perhaps it's a gift. His words hung in the air like a promise. As darkness settled outside, Clara felt a sense of peace wash over her. In that stillness, she understood. Solitude was not just an absence of company. It was an invitation to explore the depths of her soul and embrace insights that would guide her journey forward. 6.2 Confronting inner fears. As Clara sat in her cabin, the shadows of the evening deepened around her, mirroring the thoughts swirling in her mind. The stillness that once felt comforting now seemed to amplify her inner turmoil. She had been avoiding a conversation with Mark about her deepest fears, but tonight felt different. Clara, Mark began, his voice steady yet gentle as he broke the silence. What's really holding you back? He leaned forward, concern etched on his face. She hesitated, staring into the flickering candlelight. I fear failure, she admitted finally, her voice barely above a whisper. What if I pursue my dreams and fall flat on my face? The weight of expectations. Clara realized that the pressure she placed on herself was suffocating. She had always strived for perfection, fearing judgment from others, facing vulnerability. In admitting her fear to Mark, she felt a weight lift off her shoulders. It was liberating to acknowledge that vulnerability was part of being human. The power of support. Mark nodded empathetically. We all have fears, he said softly, but confronting them is where true growth begins. You think so? Clara asked, searching his eyes for reassurance. Absolutely, he replied with conviction. Every time we confront our fears, we take a step toward freedom. His words resonated within her like a distant echo of hope. Clara took a deep breath and continued. I also fear not being enough, like I'll never measure up to what I envision for myself. The admission hung heavy in the air between them. But who defines enough? Mark challenged gently. Maybe it's time to redefine your own standards. He smiled encouragingly as Clara pondered this new perspective. In that moment of shared vulnerability, Clara understood. Confronting inner fears wasn't just about facing darkness. It was about embracing light, the light of understanding and support that could guide her through uncertainty. 6.3 Clarity achieved as dawn broke. Clara felt a renewed sense of purpose wash over her. The conversation with Mark had ignited something within her, a flicker of clarity that she had long sought. She sat on the porch, sipping her coffee, the crisp morning air invigorating her senses. You know, she began, turning to Mark who was busy tending to the small garden they had started together. I've been thinking about what you said last night. She watched as he paused, wiping his hands on his jeans and giving her his full attention. About redefining my own standards? She continued. It's like I've been wearing blinders all this time. Clara's voice grew stronger as she spoke. I realize now that my fear of not being enough has held me back from even trying. Embracing imperfection. Clara understood that perfection was an illusion. It was okay to stumble along the way. The journey over destination. She recognized that growth came from experiences rather than just achievements. The importance of self-compassion. Learning to be kind to herself became a priority in her journey forward. Exactly, Mark replied, nodding enthusiastically. Every step you take is part of your story. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be yours. His words resonated deeply with Clara, echoing in her mind like a mantra. I think I'm ready to start pursuing my dreams, she declared, feeling a surge of excitement. Not because I want to prove anything, but because it's what I truly desire. Mark smiled warmly at her enthusiasm. That's the spirit. Just remember, it's okay to ask for help along the way. He gestured towards their little garden filled with budding flowers and herbs, symbols of growth and potential. Clara took a moment to absorb everything. The warmth of the sun on her skin, the vibrant colors around them, and felt an overwhelming sense of clarity settle within her heart. This was just the beginning of embracing who she truly was and what she could become. 7. Approaching the inmost cave. 7.1 Preparing for the ordeal. The air was thick with anticipation as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue over the gathering. In a small clearing surrounded by towering trees, the protagonists stood with their closest companions, each one reflecting a different facet of courage and resolve. Are you sure you're ready for this? Asked Mira, her brow furrowed with concern. She had always been the voice of reason in their group, grounding them when dreams seemed too lofty. I have to be, replied the protagonist, their voice steady despite the fluttering in their chest. This is about more than just me. It's about all of us. They glanced at each friend, drawing strength from their presence. Emotional readiness. Understanding that fear is natural but must be faced. Physical preparation. Ensuring they had everything needed for the journey ahead. Mental fortitude. Cultivating a mindset that embraces challenges as opportunities for growth. Remember what we talked about, said Leo, his voice booming yet reassuring. Every step forward is a step toward our goal. We've trained for this moment. He adjusted his gear, confidence radiating from him like sunlight breaking through clouds. And if we falter? Mira interjected softly, her eyes searching theirs for reassurance. Then we lift each other up, came the reply from Sam, who had been quietly observing. We're stronger together. The warmth of camaraderie enveloped them like a protective shield against doubt and fear. The protagonist took a deep breath, feeling an invisible thread connecting them to both friends and purpose. Let's make this count, they declared, determination igniting within them like a flame catching wind. Each nod from their companions solidified their shared commitment to face whatever lay ahead. This moment of preparation was not merely logistical. It was an emotional pact forged in trust and hope. As they stood together under the vast sky, an expanse filled with infinite possibilities, they felt ready to embrace whatever challenges awaited them on this transformative journey. 7.2 Anticipation builds tension. The night deepened, and the air crackled with an electric energy that mirrored the protagonist's racing heart. As they stood at the edge of the clearing, shadows danced around them, each flicker igniting a sense of urgency. The weight of their mission loomed large, and every rustle in the underbrush sent a shiver down their spine. What if we're not ready? Myra's voice broke through the silence, her eyes wide with apprehension. What if we encounter something we can't handle? We've trained for this, Leo reassured her, though his own hands trembled slightly as he adjusted his gear. We know what to expect. His confidence was a thin veil over his own doubts. Sam stepped closer to Mira, placing a steadying hand on her shoulder. Fear is just part of it, he said softly. It means we care about what's ahead. The warmth of his touch seemed to anchor them all amidst the rising tide of anxiety, shared fears. Each friend grappled with their own uncertainties, unspoken bonds. Their connection deepened as they faced potential dangers together, a collective goal. The stakes were high. Failure was not an option. The protagonist took a moment to absorb their surroundings. The towering trees loomed like silent sentinels, guarding secrets yet to be unveiled. We have each other, they declared, trying to infuse strength into their words. No matter what happens tonight, we face it together. Mira nodded slowly but still looked unconvinced. And if one of us gets hurt, what then? Her vulnerability hung in the air like fog. Then we fight harder, Leo replied fiercely, determination etched across his features. We don't leave anyone behind. His resolve sparked a flicker of hope within them all. This moment was charged with anticipation, a palpable tension that bound them together as they prepared to step into the unknown. With every heartbeat echoing in their ears, They understood that this journey would test not only their skills, but also the very fabric of their friendship. 7.3 Strategies laid out. The tension in the air was palpable as the group gathered around a makeshift map spread across a fallen log. Each of them leaned in, eyes scanning the intricate details that Leo had sketched from their reconnaissance. "We need to be smart about this," he began, his voice steady despite the uncertainty swirling within him. Mira traced her finger along a narrow path leading into the heart of the forest. "If we take this route, we can avoid most of the open areas where we might be spotted," she suggested, her brow furrowed in concentration. "But it's also more treacherous," Sam interjected, glancing up from the map. "There are reports of unstable ground and hidden traps." He looked at Mira with concern. "We can't afford to lose anyone before we even reach our goal." Stealth over speed. The group agreed that moving quietly would be crucial to their success. Communication is key. They decided on hand signals to maintain silence while navigating through dangerous territory. Backup plans. Each member would carry a small emergency kit in case they were separated or ambushed. "Let's split into pairs," Leo proposed, trying to instill confidence in his friends. "Mira and I will scout ahead while Sam keeps watch at our last point." His gaze shifted between them, searching for any signs of doubt. Mira nodded but added hesitantly, "What if something goes wrong? We need a signal to regroup." Her voice trembled slightly as she spoke her fears aloud. "A flare should do it," Sam replied quickly. "If you see trouble, fire it off and we'll come running." He offered a reassuring smile that seemed to ease some of Myra's anxiety. This strategic planning session not only solidified their approach but also reinforced their bond as they prepared for what lay ahead. With every detail discussed and every fear acknowledged, they felt more united than ever, ready to face whatever challenges awaited them in the shadows of the forest. 8. The Ordeal. 8.1 Facing the greatest challenge. The air was thick with tension as I stood at the edge of the precipice, my heart racing in sync with the distant thunder. "You can't back down now," whispered Sarah, her voice steady despite the storm brewing above us. She had always been my anchor, a reminder that courage often lies just beyond our fears. "What if I fail?" I replied, glancing at the swirling clouds that seemed to mock my hesitation. "What if everything goes wrong?" "Then we learn," she said firmly, stepping closer. "But you won't know unless you try." Her eyes sparkled with determination, igniting a flicker of hope within me. Facing self-doubt, confronting external challenges, finding inner strength, I took a deep breath and recalled all those moments when I felt that touch of inspiration. The fleeting instances when clarity pierced through confusion like sunlight breaking through clouds. "Remember when we climbed that mountain last summer?" I asked, trying to ground myself in a memory of triumph. "Of course. You were terrified at first," she laughed softly. "But once you took that first step, it was like you transformed." "I did feel different," I admitted, recalling how exhilarated I had been at the summit. "Maybe this is just another mountain." The thought resonated within me like a drumbeat. "Exactly," Sarah encouraged, her enthusiasm infectious. "Every challenge is an opportunity to rise higher than before." She extended her hand toward me, an invitation to leap into the unknown together. I hesitated for only a moment longer before grasping her hand tightly. The storm raged around us, but in that instant, it felt as though we were cocooned in our own bubble of resolve and purpose. "Let's do this," I declared, feeling a surge of energy coursing through me as we prepared to face whatever lay ahead, together. 8.2 Everything at stake. The wind howled around us, a fierce reminder of the stakes we faced. "This isn't just about us anymore," I said, my voice barely rising above the storm's roar. "If we fail, it could mean disaster for everyone." Sarah nodded, her expression serious. "I know, but think about what we stand to gain if we succeed." She gestured toward the horizon where dark clouds loomed ominously, yet there was a glimmer of light breaking through. "We can change everything. But what if that change comes at too high a cost?" I countered, feeling the weight of uncertainty pressing down on me. "The safety of our community, the future we've dreamed of, our own lives and well-being. Every great risk carries its burdens," she replied firmly. stepping closer as if to shield me from the tempest outside. Remember why we started this journey? We owe it to ourselves and those who believe in us. Her eyes shone with conviction. I took a moment to reflect on our shared dreams, the late-night discussions filled with hope and ambition. You're right, I admitted slowly. But what if I'm not strong enough? You are stronger than you think, Sarah insisted, squeezing my hand tightly. We've trained for this, we've prepared ourselves mentally and physically. It's time to trust in that preparation. A flicker of determination ignited within me as I recalled all those moments when doubt threatened to consume me but was met with resilience instead. Okay, I said finally, my voice steadier now. Let's do this, for everyone who depends on us. As we stood together at the edge of uncertainty, ready to leap into action, I felt an overwhelming sense of purpose wash over me. A realization that sometimes everything truly is at stake. 8.3 Triumph or defeat the storm had finally subsided, leaving a heavy silence in its wake. As we stood at the precipice of our decision, the weight of our choices loomed larger than ever. This is it, I said, my heart racing as I glanced at Sarah. We either succeed or we lose everything. But what does success look like? She asked, her brow furrowed with concern. Is it just about achieving our goal? Or is it about how we get there? I took a deep breath, feeling the cool air fill my lungs. It's both, I replied thoughtfully. If we achieve our goal but compromise who we are in the process, have we really won? The integrity of our mission, the trust of those who believe in us, our own sense of self-worth. Sarah nodded slowly, her eyes reflecting the flickering light of hope that still burned within us. Then let's make sure that whatever happens today, we stay true to ourselves. She stepped closer again, her presence grounding me amidst the uncertainty. You're right, I said with renewed conviction. We've come too far to turn back now. The memories of our journey flooded my mind. Each challenge faced and every moment shared had brought us here. As if sensing my resolve, Sarah squeezed my hand tighter and whispered, no matter what happens next, remember that this fight is for everyone who stands behind us. Her words ignited a fire within me. I could feel the strength radiating from her unwavering spirit. Together then, I affirmed, determination coursing through me like electricity. We were not just fighting for victory. We were fighting for something greater, a future where hope could flourish despite adversity. As we prepared to face whatever lay ahead, I realized that triumph was not merely defined by outcomes, but by the courage to stand firm in one's beliefs and values, even when faced with defeat. 9 Reward and Revelation 9.1 Seizing the prize. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting a golden hue over the landscape as Clara stood at the edge of the field, her heart racing with anticipation. This is it, she whispered to herself, glancing at her friend Jake who was pacing beside her. You've worked so hard for this moment, Jake said, his voice steady yet filled with excitement. Just remember what you've learned. Clara nodded, recalling all those late nights spent studying and practicing. The prize wasn't just a trophy. It represented everything she had fought for, the countless hours of dedication and resilience. I can't believe we're finally here, she replied, her eyes sparkling with determination. As they approached the stage where the awards would be presented, Clara felt a mix of nerves and exhilaration. What if I mess up? She asked, biting her lip. You won't, Jake reassured her. Just focus on your performance. And remember to breathe, he added with a grin. The announcer's voice boomed through the speakers, calling out names one by one. Each time Clara heard another contestant's name, her stomach twisted tighter until finally, and now, for our grand prize winner. Clara held her breath as silence enveloped them before the name echoed through the air. Clara Thompson. A wave of disbelief washed over her as cheers erupted from the crowd. She turned to Jake, who was jumping up and down in excitement. You did it. You really did it, he shouted. With shaky legs but an unwavering spirit, Clara stepped onto the stage. As she accepted the award, she felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude wash over her. A recognition not just of victory but of every struggle that had led to this moment. Thank you all so much. She began to speak into the microphone, feeling empowered by their support. This isn't just my win, it's ours. 9.2 Revelations reshape goals as Clara stepped off the stage, clutching her award. A whirlwind of emotions surged within her. The applause still echoed in her ears, but now she felt an unfamiliar weight pressing down on her heart. What's next? She murmured to herself, glancing at Jake, who was still buzzing with excitement. You've got to celebrate this moment, Jake exclaimed, his eyes wide with enthusiasm. Let's go out and have some fun. Clara hesitated, the trophy feeling heavier in her hands. I appreciate it, but I can't shake this feeling that I need to think about what comes after this. Why not enjoy your victory first? Jake urged. You've earned it, he added with a grin. Clara took a deep breath, trying to articulate the thoughts swirling in her mind. It's just, winning this feels like a beginning rather than an end. I thought achieving my goal would bring clarity, but instead, it's opened up new questions. Jake nodded thoughtfully. Like what? Well, Clara began slowly. I realized that I want to use this platform for something bigger. Maybe inspire others or start a project that helps those who struggle like I did. Her voice grew stronger as she spoke. That sounds amazing. You could really make a difference, Jake encouraged. But how do I even start? Clara asked, uncertainty creeping back in. One step at a time, Jake replied confidently. You've already shown you can achieve great things. Now it's about channeling that energy into something meaningful. He paused before adding, and remember, you're not alone in this. A sense of warmth spread through Clara as she considered his words. Perhaps this victory was indeed just the beginning. A stepping stone toward reshaping her goals and aspirations into something greater than herself. 9.3 Transformation begins as Clara sat in her favorite cafe, the trophy resting on the table before her. She felt a surge of determination. The weight of her recent victory had transformed into a catalyst for change. I need to start planning, she said aloud, more to herself than anyone else. Jake leaned forward, his enthusiasm palpable. What's your first step? He asked, eager to support her newfound ambition. I think I want to reach out to local schools, Clara replied thoughtfully. Maybe I can organize workshops or talks about resilience and overcoming challenges. That's a brilliant idea. You have so much to share, Jake encouraged. And it could really help someone who feels lost like you once did, he added with sincerity. A flicker of doubt crossed Clara's face. But what if they don't want to hear my story? What if I fail? Jake shook his head firmly. You won't know until you try. Remember how far you've come. You've already inspired people without even realizing it. Clara smiled at his unwavering belief in her potential. You're right. I just need to take that leap. She took a deep breath, feeling the excitement build within her as she envisioned the impact she could make. Let's brainstorm some ideas together, Jake suggested eagerly. We can create a plan and even set up social media pages to spread the word. The thought of sharing her journey ignited something within Clara, a sense of purpose that had been dormant for too long. I want this transformation not just for me but for others who might be struggling, she declared passionately. With each passing moment, Clara felt more empowered, ready to embrace this new chapter in her life. The trophy was no longer just an award. It was a symbol of hope and change, a reminder that transformation begins when one dares to dream beyond their own achievements. 10. The road back. 10.1 Decision to return. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a warm glow over the landscape as Clara stood at the edge of the forest, her heart heavy with uncertainty. I can't just leave it all behind, she murmured, glancing back at the path that had led her here. The whispers of the trees seemed to echo her thoughts. You know you have to go back, said Marcus, stepping beside her. His voice was steady, yet there was an undercurrent of concern in his tone. What you've found here is important, but it's not your home. Clara sighed deeply, feeling the weight of his words settle within her. But what if I lose this connection? What if I forget how it felt to be free? She turned to face him, searching for reassurance in his eyes. You won't forget, he replied softly. This experience will always be a part of you. But think about everyone waiting for you. Your family, your friends. He paused, letting his gaze drift toward the distant mountains. They need you too. I know, Clara admitted, biting her lip as she wrestled with conflicting emotions. It's just, everything feels so different now. Different isn't bad, Marcus encouraged gently. It means you've grown. You can bring that growth back with you. Share it with those who care about you. A rustle in the bushes caught their attention as Lila emerged from behind a tree, her eyes bright with curiosity. Are we leaving? She asked innocently. Clara knelt down to meet Lila's gaze and smiled softly. Yes, little one. We're going home. Lila's face lit up with excitement as she clapped her hands together. Home. Can we tell stories about our adventures? Absolutely, Clara replied, feeling a warmth spread through her chest at Lila's enthusiasm. As they began their journey back along the familiar path, Clara realized that returning didn't mean abandoning what she had discovered. Rather, it meant carrying those lessons forward into a new chapter of life, a decision rooted in love and responsibility. 10.2 renewed challenges emerge as Clara, Marcus, and Lila made their way back through the forest. The familiar path began to feel foreign underfoot. The vibrant colors of the landscape seemed muted now, a stark contrast to the vivid experiences they had just shared. Clara's heart raced with anticipation and trepidation as she thought about what awaited them at home. What if things have changed too much? Clara voiced her concern, glancing sideways at Marcus. What if I don't fit in anymore? Marcus shook his head, his expression resolute. Change is part of life, Clara. You've grown stronger and wiser. That's something to embrace. Lila skipped ahead, her laughter ringing through the trees like a melody. I can't wait to tell everyone about the giant mushrooms, she exclaimed, oblivious to the weight of Clara's worries. Yes, Clara replied softly, a smile tugging at her lips despite her anxiety. But there are other stories too, stories that might be harder to share. As they reached the edge of the forest, reality loomed large before them. Their village lay just beyond the clearing, but it felt like a world away. The air was thick with unspoken fears, the fear of rejection. Would her friends understand her transformation? The burden of expectations. What would her family think when they saw how much she had changed? The challenge of reintegration. How could she balance her newfound freedom with old responsibilities? You're not alone in this, Marcus reassured her as they paused for a moment. We'll face whatever comes together. His words were a lifeline amidst swirling doubts. Lila returned from exploring nearby flowers and chimed in cheerfully. And I'll help. We can make new adventures right here. Her innocence brought warmth back into Clara's heart. With renewed determination igniting within her, Clara took a deep breath and stepped forward into the light of their village. A place where challenges awaited, but so did love and familiarity. 10.3 Pursuit intensifies as Clara stepped into the village. A sense of urgency gripped her heart. The familiar sights and sounds felt different now, as if they were cloaked in shadows of uncertainty. We need to talk to the elders, she said, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. Marcus nodded, his brow furrowed with concern. They'll want to know about what we faced in the forest. But do you think they'll believe us? Lila, still bubbling with excitement from their adventure, chimed in. Of course, we have proof. The giant mushrooms. She twirled around, oblivious to the tension that hung in the air. It's not just about the mushrooms, Clara replied softly. There are darker things at play. Her mind raced back to the whispers they had heard, rumors of a shadowy figure pursuing them through the woods, the looming threat. What if that figure was still following them? The urgency of action. They needed a plan before it was too late. The weight of responsibility. Clara felt an obligation to protect her village from whatever danger lurked beyond their borders. We can't let fear dictate our actions, Marcus urged, placing a reassuring hand on Clara's shoulder. Let's gather everyone and share our story. Lila's eyes sparkled with determination as she added, and I'll help. We can make banners and call for a meeting. Her enthusiasm was infectious, igniting a flicker of hope within Clara. You're right, Clara said, feeling her resolve strengthen. But we must also be cautious. If someone is indeed pursuing us, she trailed off, glancing over her shoulder as if expecting to see that ominous figure lurking behind a tree. The trio moved swiftly through the village square, gathering friends and neighbors who sensed something was amiss. As they prepared to share their tale of adventure and warning, Clara knew that this moment would define not only their futures, but also the fate of their home. 11 Resurrection 11.1 Final Confrontation. The air was thick with tension as the protagonist stood at the edge of the clearing, heart pounding in rhythm with the distant thunder. Shadows danced around them, flickering like memories of past confrontations. The moment had arrived. It was time to face the darkness that had haunted their every step. "You think you can just walk away from this?" A voice echoed from behind a gnarled tree, sharp and taunting. It was Alex, once a friend, now an embodiment of betrayal. "I'm not here to walk away," the protagonist replied, stealing their resolve. "I'm here to end this." The words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken fears and hopes. Alex stepped into view, eyes glinting with malice. "End it? You don't even know what you're up against." "I know enough," they shot back, fists clenched at their sides. "This isn't just about us anymore. It's about everyone you've hurt. You think your righteousness will save them?" Alex sneered. "It's not about saving anyone," came the reply, voice steady. "It's about taking responsibility." "Responsibility? You're delusional." The wind picked up, swirling leaves around them like whispers of forgotten dreams. Each gust seemed to carry fragments of their shared past. Laughter turned to anger, trust shattered by deceit. "You were my brother," Alex said suddenly, vulnerability cracking through his bravado. "How could you betray me?" "Betrayal is a two-way street," the protagonist countered softly but firmly. "You chose power over friendship." They took a step forward, closing the distance between them. A silence fell over the clearing as both stood on opposite sides of an invisible line drawn by choices made long ago. The sky above darkened ominously as if reflecting their inner turmoil. "This ends today," they declared again, determination igniting within them like a flame against encroaching darkness. 11.2 Death and Rebirth. The clearing was now a battleground of emotions, where the air crackled with unresolved tension. As the protagonist faced Alex, they felt a profound shift within themselves, a sense of impending transformation. "You don't understand what you're doing," Alex spat, his voice laced with desperation. "No," the protagonist replied, their voice steady yet filled with emotion. "I'm finally understanding who I need to be." The weight of past choices pressed heavily on their shoulders, but in that moment, clarity emerged from the chaos. "You think this is about you?" Alex challenged, stepping closer, his eyes narrowing. "You'll never escape the darkness." "It's not about escaping," came the calm response. "It's about confronting it." The protagonist took a deep breath, feeling an unfamiliar strength surge through them as they recalled all those who had suffered because of Alex's actions. "You were supposed to stand by me," Alex shouted, anger boiling over. "And I did, until you chose power over our bond," the protagonist countered fiercely. "This isn't just your fight." A flicker of doubt crossed Alex's face as he hesitated for a moment. "What if I can change? What if we can fix this together?" His vulnerability hung in the air like a fragile thread. The protagonist paused, heart racing at the thought of reconciliation. Change doesn't come from words alone. It requires sacrifice and accountability. They stepped forward again, bridging the gap between them with newfound resolve. "I can't go back," Alex whispered, fear creeping into his tone. "I've done too much." The shadows around them seemed to pulse in agreement. "Then let this be your death, the end of who you were," they urged gently but firmly. "And from that death, allow something new to rise." A silence enveloped them as both contemplated what rebirth could mean amidst such devastation. 11.3 Rebirth completed. The air was thick with anticipation as the protagonist stood before Alex, the weight of their shared history hanging heavily between them. "You have to let go of who you were," they urged, their voice steady yet filled with compassion. "Only then can you truly be reborn." The clearing, once a battleground, now felt like sacred ground, a place for transformation. Alex's expression shifted from defiance to uncertainty. But what if I fail again? He asked, vulnerability creeping into his tone. The shadows that had once loomed over him seemed to recede slightly at the sound of his admission. Failure is part of growth, the protagonist replied softly. It's not about perfection. It's about progress. They stepped closer, bridging the emotional distance that had kept them apart for so long. I don't know if I can trust myself, Alex confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. Trust is built through action, came the firm response. Show me you're willing to change. What if I'm too far gone? The protagonist took a deep breath, feeling a surge of empathy for Alex's struggle. We all have darkness within us, they said gently, but it's how we confront it that defines us. A flicker of hope ignited in Alex's eyes as he considered this new perspective. So, what do I do now? He asked, a hint of determination breaking through his fear. Start by acknowledging your past, the protagonist advised. Then take small steps towards making amends, both to yourself and those you've hurt. They paused, allowing the gravity of their words to sink in. As silence enveloped them once more, Alex nodded slowly, acceptance dawning on his face. I want to try, he finally declared, a newfound strength resonating in his voice. Then let this moment mark your rebirth, the protagonist affirmed with conviction. Together they stood amidst the remnants of their past battles, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead with courage and hope. 12 Return with Elixir 12.1 Bringing Back Wisdom. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the village, Clara sat on a weathered bench outside her grandmother's cottage. The air was thick with the scent of blooming jasmine, and she could hear the distant laughter of children playing in the fields. It was here that she felt a profound connection to her roots, a sense of belonging that had eluded her during her years away. You know, Clara, her grandmother said, joining her on the bench, wisdom isn't just about what we learn. It's about what we bring back to those we love. Her voice was soft yet firm, like the gentle rustle of leaves in a summer breeze. But how do I share what I've learned? Clara asked, looking into her grandmother's wise eyes. I feel like my experiences are so vast and complex. Start small, her grandmother replied with a knowing smile. Share your stories. Each tale carries a lesson. She paused for a moment before continuing. Remember when you were little? You used to tell me about your dreams as if they were real adventures. Yes, I wanted to fly like the birds, Clara exclaimed, laughter bubbling up from within. Exactly. Those dreams held wisdom even then, her grandmother said. They taught you about freedom and aspiration. So you're saying I should weave my experiences into stories? Clara pondered aloud. Her grandmother nodded enthusiastically. Every experience is an elixir of knowledge waiting to be shared. When you return home with your insights, you enrich not only your life but also those around you. Clara felt a spark ignite within her, a realization that sharing wisdom wasn't merely about imparting knowledge. It was about creating connections through shared experiences and emotions. As twilight enveloped them in its embrace, she understood that bringing back wisdom meant nurturing those bonds and inspiring others to reach for their own sky. 12.2 changed by journey. As Clara settled into the familiar rhythm of village life, she felt the weight of her journey pressing against her heart. The vibrant colors of her experiences danced in her mind, each memory a brushstroke on the canvas of her soul. She had changed, and she could sense it in every interaction. You seem different, remarked Thomas, a childhood friend who had always been a source of comfort. They sat together on the porch of the local cafe, sipping herbal tea infused with wildflowers. What happened out there? Clara smiled softly, recalling the vast landscapes and diverse cultures that had shaped her understanding. I learned to see beyond my own world, she replied thoughtfully. Every person I met taught me something new. Like what? Thomas leaned in, curiosity sparkling in his eyes. The importance of listening, Clara said, her voice steady. In some places, silence speaks louder than words, and I realized how interconnected we all are, she continued. Our stories weave together like threads in a tapestry. Thomas nodded slowly, absorbing her words as if they were precious gems. So you're saying your journey was more than just travel? It was about connection? Exactly, Clara exclaimed, feeling a surge of passion. It's about understanding our shared humanity. She paused for a moment before adding, but it's also about embracing change within ourselves. The sun dipped lower in the sky as they spoke, casting long shadows across the ground. Clara felt an urge to share more. Her laughter from distant markets and quiet moments under starlit skies. But she also sensed that not everyone would understand. Do you think they'll accept this new version of you? Thomas asked gently. Clara took a deep breath and replied with conviction. I hope so. I want to inspire them to explore their own journeys too. Her heart swelled with determination. She knew that sharing her transformation was just as vital as experiencing it. 12.3 New beginnings await as Clara stepped away from the cafe. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves overhead, whispering promises of change. The village felt both familiar and foreign, a canvas awaiting her new brushstrokes. She glanced at Thomas, who was still deep in thought. What will you do now? He asked, breaking the silence that had settled between them. Clara paused, considering her next steps. I want to share what I've learned, she replied with determination. There's so much beauty in our differences. You mean like starting a community project? Thomas suggested, his eyes lighting up. Exactly, Clara exclaimed. A place where we can all come together, share stories, skills, and experiences. That sounds amazing, but how do you plan to get everyone involved? He questioned. Clara smiled at his enthusiasm. I think it starts with small gatherings, maybe storytelling nights or workshops on different cultures. She could already envision the vibrant tapestry of voices filling the air. Thomas nodded thoughtfully. You know, some people might resist change, he warned gently. Not everyone is ready to embrace new ideas. I understand that, Clara said softly, but I believe if we approach them with love and patience, they'll see the value in connection. Her heart raced at the thought of igniting curiosity within her community. The sun began its descent behind the hills as they walked through the village square, where children played and laughter echoed around them. Clara felt a surge of hope. This was just the beginning of something beautiful. Let's make it happen together, Thomas said suddenly, his voice filled with conviction. I'll help you organize everything. Clara beamed at him, grateful for his support. With friends by my side, I know we can create something special. As they continued their conversation about plans and possibilities, Clara realized that every ending was merely a prelude to new beginnings waiting to unfold.